Blind test.
All right. Hello, beautiful people. It's SamMeeBee with Gem City Sports. Today's Wednesday, September 18th. Week 3 of the NFL starts tomorrow. But before we talk about that, I want to introduce our co-host today. We have a returning. You saw him a lot last year, Danny Stone. What's going on, Dan?
Hey, thanks for having me, Sammy. Be excited to be here. Talk some Rams, Niners, and the rest of the slate of games.
Yeah, and so speaking of Niners, we have the return of the Mac. As you can see, he did a special video with me last season talking NFL playoffs. Good to see you, Mac. What's going on, man?
Hey, good to see you guys. Yeah, enjoying my new move over to North Dakota, getting used to it. Leaving California, being able to watch the Niners, when they actually, the Pacific time, but getting used to it. It's fun, though. I'm glad to be here talking sports.
Heck yeah. I know Dan's still in Erie, which is the Gem City, how we got our name, but I now live in near Denver, so we're all in different time zones. So I'm glad we got to make it work. Excited for this video and what else we can make. But we're going to start with our teams. We got the Niners going to LA for the Rams. Max, since you're the returning guest, do you have any thoughts on the Niners season or thoughts for this upcoming game?
I'm a little concerned. I mean, the obvious ones are off the bat. McCaffrey, we all know that, right? He's on IR, missing 4 games. Whatever. Mason comes in, does incredible. 147 yards rushing first game, 100 yards second game. So you're like, oh, cool. But then he did that, and they still lost to the Vikings. So I don't know, a little bit of concern going in. I'm a homer, so I'm like, of course I'm going to say, 17-0 this year. But the Rams always, no matter, I know the game last week against the Cardinals, but whenever the Rams and the Niners play, it's always the Rams are always there, no matter. You got Stafford. I know they don't got Cup. Nakua is out, so now Debo's out, so it's like it's gonna be. I just heard Hufanga's in though, which is big time for the 49ers. Get that defensive safety help, but we'll see. I think it's gonna be closer than people expect. I think people are thinking, seeing the Rams last week against the Cardinals, not doing so well, but I think it's gonna be a close game.
Yeah, I'm going to kick over Dan in a second, but I know the spread opened at Niners were favored by 3. Now it's 7.5. Definitely a big difference. And you mentioned the loss to the Vikings. I was looking at some numbers up. Brock Purdy's 22-7 as a starter, but 0-2 against Minnesota. So I feel like every team, every quarterback has a team that can't beat. Like Mahomes, I know they just beat Cincinnati. Kind of questionable on the calls, but Cincinnati beats Mahomes. So some teams seem to own a quarterback. So outside of Minnesota, he's pretty good. And then, and Dan, I know you write for the Rams. It's been a rough 2 weeks. We haven't made a video, so give me your feedback on the Rams so far, and what are you thinking for this game?
I'm really glad you brought up the Minnesota Vikings, Brock Purdy, because that's always just interesting when that kind of thing happens, and that ties into the Rams losing to the Cardinals, because the Rams have kind of owned the Cardinals more or less, and they just got absolutely stomped Sunday. But I kind of told you guys I was going to do this joke, but I've got my Rams flask for all my hurt Rams fans out there. I think this season you might need to drink from the flask. This season might be a rough one. I actually predicted the Rams to win the last 2 games, and they lost. I have the Rams losing to the 49ers on Sunday, and I'm writing a little article about it. I think I'm going to go with 27-10 49ers, but I think to Mac's point, I don't think it's going to be a blowout like the Cardinals were. Like, I bet it's competitive for a good 2-3 quarters, but in the end, the Rams offensive line won't be able to hold up against what I think is a healthy 49ers defense. And I think they'll be able to, you can't replace CMC or Deebo Samuel, but I think they have enough skill position players with Brandon Ayuk, with Jordan Mason, who's looked really good so far. I obviously want to believe the Rams can win, but it's just hard to really realistically feel that way right now after 2 really rough losses for 2 very different reasons.
That's true. And I was looking up some numbers, like I said, in McVay and Stafford. When they're an underdog, they're 4-12 straight up. So when they're expected to lose, they don't cover. And I was kind of scared going into the season without Aaron Donald. And now after seeing these week 1, week 2, that defense is not looking good. They're just terrible. And then
I like the additions, but they just looked really bad last week. The whole team did. I thought week 1 they looked okay, but I digress. To your point, obviously not having Aaron Donald has been a
Yeah, I was flying home from a wedding, so thankfully I didn't watch the whole game. I bought the in-flight Wi-Fi and regret that because I turned on halftime. I'm like, this is an error, isn't it? And then think Sean McVay had a good quote. The only positive, the game's over. So I had another stat, but before I bring it up, Matt, do you know, is Trent Williams, is he healthy? Is he playing in this game?
Yeah, he's healthy. He's back in. He didn't miss a beat at all. Like all that contract stuff over the offseason and training camp, and he came in unlike Ayuk, who doesn't seem quite prepared, missing that time.
Mm-hmm.
Trent Williams came in and just is doing the same Trent Williams stuff. I think his out of all offensive or left tackles has one of the highest rate. No like pressures on his end. So he picked up right where he left off. The Ayuk part is what, like, I think he had 4 catches last game, 2 the first game, and he just doesn't look like in game shape ready. Whereas Trent Williams is just, he's like 36, I think, and he's still just running out there like a maniac.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point with teams. We'll probably talk about it more later. A lot of teams, especially quarterbacks, are underperforming in terms of yards, which obviously receivers. So, because I was looking at some stats, so I'm like, I'm not much of a trash talker, but I'll look up numbers. Because when Trent Williams doesn't play or plays less than 50%, the Niners have lost 5 in a row. And since last season, when Debo doesn't play, they're 0-3. And lastly, when McCaffrey either doesn't play or gets less than 10 carries when he plays, his teams, dating back to Carolina, are 19-29. So I think if Trent Williams was out, I'd be like, maybe this game's closer than it should be. But I have the Niners winning. I think the Rams would cover because if you remember last season, the Rams were down like 10 or something. Got a last-second field goal for no reason. Yeah, last-second field goal to cover the spread. So 7.5. I mean, you look at like New England. I think week 1 I did pick them because it was such a large spread. It's the NFL. Teams are bad, but they can still cover a large spread. So I have the Niners winning, but not by more than 7.5. Maybe they win by a full touchdown.
Yeah, I don't think I answered the question. I do have the Niners, but yeah, like you said, I think the Rams do cover. I think it's gonna be closer. Like I want the Niners to get a bounce back, like huge win. But like I said, I think it's gonna be like a 27-20. Like it's gonna be closer.
Mm-hmm. I hope you guys are right. I hope the Rams have a shot to win.
I'm also traveling this weekend, so if it's another bad game, good news. I'm not watching it. So I'm trying to be productive on the weekends, and the Rams' terrible season's helping me with that. So.
It has been a rough start. I mean, I'm not in the camp of like the season's over, but I literally had them starting 2-0 and even 3-0, so to already be down 0-2, it just makes me question completely how I thought the season was going to go. But we'll see. A lot of games left.
Well, I mean, Jimmy G's coming back. Maybe he's the spark plug.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah,
he was suspended the first 2 games. He's coming back.
He's the plug. He's what they need.
Wasn't one of their linemen suspended 2 games? Because I know
Larry Jackson.
The biggest concern for me. Like receivers go down, people go down, injuries happen, but that O-line, that injury.
Well, and I know we're going to get into talking about the rest of the games, and I won't harp on this too much, but I really think Matthew Stafford has a real chance here without Puka Nacua, without Cooper Kupp, and with a banged-up offensive line. If he can keep the Rams competitive, like I just think it builds on what I think is a really strong Hall of Fame case. It's just like, look, like this guy's still slinging it. He can do it without superstar receivers. He can do it with an injured team. So I feel like if he can stay healthy, it could be really fun to kind of watch him and how he spreads the ball around. But the offensive line has to somewhat keep him upright, and I just don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I noticed they kept him in at late stages. Yeah, I think he played the whole game last game.
Pretty much.
They were down.
Yeah.
Several points, and Kupp was out. They didn't have Nacua, and he was just in there down 31 or whatever. They're down, and he was still just. So was that you guys think that was him or McVay or
he was just handing the ball off to Blake Corum. I saw a post-game interview with Stafford, and it was Stafford or McVay or both, because they actually do typically kind of say similar. They are usually in sync, whether it's real or not. That's what they portray. And I want to say that one or both had said that he's just handing the ball off to Blake Corum at that point. If they would have actually had some passing plays, Stetson might have been in there. But you can't help but wonder, too, as I say that out loud, maybe they're just like, we don't want to put Stetson in there. Like, we just didn't want another team to claim him. Because Jimmy G, I assume, is going to be the number 2 without much of a hitch. And if Stafford goes down or is hurt, I would have to think they're more comfortable putting Jimmy G in there than Stetson Bennett, who had he had an exciting preseason, but not for all positive reasons. But he did. He's an interesting player to say the least. But yeah, so I think that answers your question, Mac. But was it smart? I don't know. I mean, he's taken some shots already. I mean, everybody has.
He looked a little. He was like hobbling towards that. Like he dropped back and he looked like he was limping. And I said, "Why is he still in there?"
They're rolling with it. I mean, it's exciting. There's all these trade rumors about him too, which is really interesting. And I just kind of shrug it aside till we see something. But I right now, Brock Purdy, if I'm not mistaken, he beat the Rams last year. I know the Rams beat the Niners in round 2, but that was with like backups. And then Puka Nacua broke the record. So Brock Purdy, to my knowledge, is undefeated against the Rams, and I think he's the real deal. I think he's a starting quarterback in the NFL, and I think he's about to be 2-0 against the Rams Sunday. But hopefully, I've got a reverse jinx thing going here. I'd love to see the Rams win. I mean, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, Stafford has lost the last 7 against the Niners.
Yeah.
So
it's crazy.
Purdy to whoever's starting, and going back to the injury thing, like I said, I bought the in-flight Wi-Fi, so I caught it just before halftime, and Mark Sanchez was like, "Oh, he doesn't look good, but he's not going to admit that." So I'm like, "Yeah." So I think Stafford is banged up, but didn't want to admit it. So, and
they won the Super Bowl a few years ago, and I guess that's what you got to hang your hat on if the season continues to spiral downward. I mean, that's
yeah. And I see we have a comment asking about Derek Carr. These would do good fantasy-wise. We haven't got to that game yet. I'm going to go ahead and say yes. I got some good research saying that.
Goodness, yeah. I want to talk about Derek Carr and the Saints so much.
Yeah. We can start hitting it if you guys are ready. I mean, I love talking Rams, Niners.
Yeah.
But we can start hitting it
one last thing on the Niners game. Like I said, without Debo last season, like I said, the Niners are 0-3. All 3 games, they scored exactly 17 points. So it makes me wonder if it's going to be a low-scoring game, you know?
I can see that.
So normally we go in order of Thursday night, but since we have a comment here asking about the New Orleans game, let's start with that one. Let's start with Philadelphia at New Orleans. Then we'll jump back to the Thursday night games.
Yeah.
Before we do talk about it, I made a preseason bet that the Eagles will be the first team to score 100 points of the season. That's not going to happen. It's definitely going to be the Saints. They scored 91 points so far. The third team to do that since the Super Bowl merger, and the other 2 teams went to the Super Bowl and won it. So I think they're looking pretty good. But I'll let Danny Stone start this one. What do you think about this game?
I want to apologize to the Saints. Is it Houday Nation or Houdat or
Houdat? Yeah,
Houdat. I apologize for getting it wrong. I think the Bengals the first one I said, but I thought the Saints were going to be in like a lame duck year, which they still could be. They're only 2-0, but wow, they've looked so good. Dennis Allen, all credit to him. Keeping Derek Carr, who looks phenomenal. I mean, yeah, I think you got to keep starting him in fantasy. I mean, eventually, I think, he's not going to have a 20-plus point game, but he's actually looked really good. Alvin Kamara looks fantastic. The Saints look great. I mean, and I hate to be this is me, and maybe you two will disagree. You can't help but wonder if it's one of those early season mirages where at the end of the year they're 7-12 or 8-9 or whatever, but wow, they have looked good, and they've done it against 2 very different teams, the Panthers and then the Cowboys. So I guess we'll see how they do. The Eagles is a big matchup, and the Eagles just come off a really rough loss.
Yeah, and I'll jump in real quick because I know Carolina, they're not a good team, but Dallas is a really good team, so that's why I think the Saints are for real. Danny Stone, do you remember what I thought last season about the Saints? I thought they were going to go 10-0. Like sweep the division. I had Chris Olave winning Offensive Player of the Year. I was a season too early. Like I believe
you're too early.
So if you go back
before pass defense, just want to respond to the comment. You're right. They've looked really poor. They're banged up. I think, and I don't mean to cut you off, SamMeeBee. I'll throw it out there, and then please take the reins. I think I'm picking the Saints. And if you would have asked me that 2 weeks ago or a week ago, there's no way I would have picked the Saints in this game, and I kind of can't believe it. I'm picking the Saints to beat the Eagles. Yeah,
like you said, I was a year too early. Ever since I started gambling, I've never seen an NFL line move as much as this. Even with injuries, you'll see like a line move 2-3 points. This one moved a whole 6 points. The Saints were a 3-point underdog. Now they're a 3-point favorite. I mean, some books had the hook, so it kind of depends on where you're at. But like I said, the third team to score 90 points. The last 2 was 09 Saints and the 71 Cowboys. It's unbelievable because the second most scored points this season is Arizona, 69. So I believe in the Saints. I picked up Derek Carr in fantasy. I dropped Caleb Williams to get him, and I'm starting Derek Carr. I unfortunately have a lot of bad players, injured players. So I just traded Chris Olave to the guy I'm facing this week. So,
there you go.
I had 4 good receivers, so I had to give away one because McCaffrey is on the IR still, and I needed a running back. But yeah, so Mac, what do you think about? So actually, backtracking, I do have the Saints winning in this game. Dan, who do you have picked winning in this game?
I'm going to go with the Saints as well, and I kind of can't believe it. But I know, Mac, you wanted to talk this time.
Going back to week 1, they beat the Panthers, and you're like, okay, they beat the Panthers. Division, that was kind of expected. Then they play the Cowboys, and you're like, okay, if they could keep it close, then they're legit. Then they stomped the Cowboys, and I was blown away. I think it was on at the same time the Niners game was on, so I was kind of paying attention to it. And I think Carr started out 4 for 4 for 135 yards passing. And I was like, what's going on? And he had that 70-yard pass. I think Shaheed, he had a little screen. And I think a lot of it, their offensive play calling, because they had this really clever scheme and a screen pass. So I think Kamara ran a super long touchdown. So I think a lot of his play calling, Derek Carr, when he went to the Saints last year, I think people are expecting him to do really well. Everyone, Derek Carr's a good quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
So you thought, Saints, good roster, and he didn't do so well. So you're like, and then this year, I think now it's catching up. Like you guys were saying, like last year, they should have been good. So going into this season, you just kind of expected same as last season, not so well, but I think they're actually putting it all together. They're exciting to watch. 91 points. I mean, to do that against the Cowboys defense too, that's in Dallas too. So that's I think it's a lot of his play calling. I'm going to pick the Saints too. I want to say Eagles just because they're the Eagles. They came off that rough loss. They're going to come out on fire. But the Saints, if they get to 3-0 after beating the Eagles, they're legit NFC. Probably number 1, 2. They're going to win their division, I'm sure. And so I think they're legit, especially if they win this next game, which I think they will. I'm going to call
I'll be curious when they play the Bucks. I can't say they win the division outright, but to your point, Mac, I think Clint Kubiak's the OC, the offensive coordinator there, and just based on just whatever I see on YouTube, he's been coming up a lot. People are really buzzing about the offense. I mean, it's early, but if they keep it up, I mean, that's a head coaching candidate, I think, because people love offensive minds. I mean, why wouldn't you? Especially when, Derek Carr looks great.
And it's not so much I was jumping off the Saints this season. I think it was I kind of liked Baker and the team around him. So I said last year I had such high hopes that I'm like, well, I need to prove it season, So and then our commenter mentioned about the Eagles defense. Yeah, they are 28th overall, so top 5 for giving up the most passing yards per game. Granted, it's only 2 weeks, but like we said earlier, a lot of these quarterbacks are just not throwing the ball. I don't have the stats on me right now, but I was talking to my friend. It's like the lowest in a very long time. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's kind of a running. They're running a lot, but we'll see. We'll see. It's 2 weeks, and it's 17 game seasons, and there's a lot of injuries to a lot of star players right now, which is interesting. But it's probably like that every year. Every year's new.
I just don't know if they cover because it's 3, 1 possession. And I think it was historically, if you go back, I think it's 2010, most games, the final score is like decided by 3 points. So it's always interesting. You have that hook, 3.5.
That's how they get you.
I just want to see Taysom Hill get the ball more. Come on. That little,
I think he's hurt.
The little wild card. So, all right. So all 3 of us are on New Orleans, but you were going to jump back in order. We're going to go to the revamped New England Patriots without Bill Belichick. We're looking pretty good going to the Jets. I'll start with this one. Actually, Mac, you want to start with this one? What are you feeling for this?
Yeah, so I'm going to go Jets. This, to me, this is a relatively easy pick. First week against the Niners again. They didn't look too good, so I was like, oh, man, are the Jets this good? 49ers that good? It's kind of a mixed bag after week 2 for both of them, though. Rodgers picked it up. He looks, kind of more back to his old self. He's throwing the ball around. They beat the Titans, I think, by a touchdown. I think they take this one, though. I think this one's the easy one, probably a double-digit win.
Mm-hmm. Actually, I did find one of my stats. In weeks 1 and 2, only 17 of 64 quarterbacks have gone over 1.5 passing touchdowns. So it's not just yards, it's passing as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so far, we've only had 5 quarterbacks throw for 300 yards, and those quarterbacks are 2 and 3. And if you're betting, they're 0-4-1 ATS against the spread. So yeah, passing is down. And this one, I was looking at. The Jets aren't that good right now, so I don't know who I want to take. The Jets and Giants are combined 3-28 straight up in primetime games since 2019. But Aaron Rodgers, last year I was high on him coming to the Jets, and then he got hurt. He's pretty good in primetime, 11-4-1 against the spread. This one's tough. I do have the Jets winning, but I actually have New England covering the spread. But I'm taking the Jets here. Probably thinking under, too. I think primetime games historically are under. These Thursday night games usually suck, so I'm not excited for it. What about you, Dan? What are you thinking for this one?
I can't give you any great analysis, but I'm going to take the New England Patriots. I thought the Jets were going to be really good last year. They weren't. So I might just be wrong, but I don't know. Gerard Mayo and the Patriots historically kind of own the Jets. I know they lost to them in a game last year, but yeah, I'm going to go with the New England Patriots, but any given Sunday, we'll see.
Yeah, I think in this matchup, I know it is usually Bill Belichick, but the Jets are 1-15 against the Patriots the last 16 games. So
their run defense has looked bad, and that's weird. That's kind of weird to me, but also it's not like I'm watching the all 22, but they gave up a lot of yards to Jordan Mason of the Niners, which that's understandable. Then they gave up quite a few yards to Tony Pollard of the Titans, and that one I'm a little bit more. I don't know. I think that's interesting.
I don't think you're crazy for taking New England. Like I said, I thought about taking them, but I'm taking the Jets in this one. And then we'll go to another interesting matchup. We got the New York Giants going to Cleveland. I'll start with this one. Kind of changed my mind on the spread, but straight up I had the Browns winning this one. Kevin Stefanski, the Browns coach, is 4-0 against the spread in week 3. And all 4 games have actually been at home, and they cover by around 11.8 points per game. But the reason I'm taking the Browns here, the Giants defense is just not that good. They have allowed a journeyman, Sam Darnold, and then a rookie last week, Daniels, to complete 79.2% of completions, which is the 8th most since the NFL merger. So I just don't believe in the Giants defense or Danny Dimes. I know he shaved. We'll see if that makes a difference. Maybe be a little faster in the run defense. So I'll kick it right back to you, Danny Stone. Who are you taking on this one?
I don't believe in Danny Dimes either. I think the only good thing, Malik Neighbors is great. And I want to root for Danny Dimes, and I don't wish for people to not do well, but I'm just not seeing it. And it's probably not even all his fault. Their offensive line might not be that good. And I think that in some way, the Giants and Giants fans are really lucky that Saquon Barkley of the Eagles dropped that pass Monday night. Otherwise, they'd just be kicking themselves more, I think, for letting Saquon go. But I'm going to pick the Browns in that game as well. I agree.
I'm glad I lost by 1. I lost a big money in the first half on the Eagles on a prop that all they had to do was kick a field goal, and they didn't go for the field goal, and it turned over on down.
Sirianni didn't want to kick a field goal. I don't know.
God. I was texting my friend, they better lose by 1 or 2 now, just because they didn't kick that field goal. I was so mad. So yeah, Cleveland. So you're not supporting fellow Dan. Oh boy. How about you, Mac? Who are you feeling for this game?
Browns as well. Yeah, the Giants just look atrocious. I mean, Daniel Jones, I think they got caught up in them making it to the playoffs and a wild card. They made it to the playoffs first time in a while, right? So you're like, oh, maybe he is a quarterback. I don't think so. I think they just don't want to move on from him, and they probably need to. Mm-hmm. He's had these spurts of good football, and then he just throws the worst pass ever. The Browns haven't looked that great either, but I think the Browns are actually going to turn it around. I really think Watson, I think he's having his difficulties. I have Cooper on my fantasy team. He hasn't been playing up anything either. I think they start putting it together, though. I think they take this game and pretty easily on Sunday.
Damn, it is interesting. All right, we'll move to the next matchup. We got the Texans going to Minnesota. My research had me change my mind on this one. So before I dive in, I'm going to have Danny Stone start with this one.
I heard some I heard some fantasy information about how the Minnesota secondary has been giving up like the most, the long passing plays, which is really interesting. But I wonder. I can't help but think your research has you picking Minnesota because I feel like the smart bet is Houston, who I think C.J. Stroud's great. They're finding ways to win games. I know C.J. Stroud hasn't exactly quote lit up the scoreboard in week 1 and week 2, but they're winning games, and I think that's all that matters. So yeah, oh man, this is kind of a wild one. The Vikings look really good. I think I'm going to go with the Houston Texans though, and I really like Kevin O'Connell of the Vikings. That's why I kind of believe in the Vikings. I mean, I didn't know they were going to start 2-0, but I'm going to go with DeMeco Ryans and the Houston Texans. I think they're in for a big time season.
All right. I like that. And what about you, Mac? Who are you feeling for this one?
I'm gonna go Texans as well. I was a little torn on this one just because of watching the Vikings beat the Niners last week and how good they looked, and I think it also matters how healthy Jefferson is. I know he had that quad injury. I don't know the status on that.
Great point.
It didn't look good when he went out, but they said it's just a quad and he's doing fine. But I still take the Texans. I think. Like if I'm thinking power rankings in the NFL, I think they're a top 5 team. Honestly, I think Stroud is the real deal. Even though it's in Minnesota, I think they go in there. I think it's gonna be a sneaky, like one of the best games of the weekend, though. But I think Texans do take it.
All right, yeah, and Dan, you're right. I did take Minnesota. I'll give you my research here in a second. Because originally I was thinking Houston, but the line moved 2 points, and I do a lot of I don't say a lot, but I have to gamble and read the numbers and the movement. So it takes a lot of money from the sharps to move a spread 2 whole points. So right now it's Houston favored by 2.5, but it opened at 4.5. And like I said, I look at weird trends. Miami last week I picked them to beat Buffalo. I felt stupid afterwards because Josh Allen is 11-2 now against Miami. Just doesn't matter who he has with him, So I was looking at it. Brian Flores. Let me see. So when a quarterback is in the first 2 years of the league facing Brian Flores defense against Minnesota, they're 1-3. And then the only win was in overtime. So it's Joe Burrow. And then with the Dolphins, when he was a head coach, QBs in the first 2 years were 8-9 or 2-5 on the road. So it just seems like Brian Flores has a pretty good handle of the rookie and sophomore QBs. And who else did? Bill Belichick, who used to work for. So I just think he's got this weird thing with defense. He can contain people. Houston, they won week 1, so it's always a weird loss. It's any given Sunday. I don't really believe in Sam Darnold. I think he's in a better position with Minnesota. He's looking up to be that top 4 pick or whatever he was. So I am taking Minnesota to win this one as an underdog.
You do believe in Sam Darnold?
I do not believe in Sam Darnold.
I
believe in
he'll eventually come back down to earth, the pumpkin and the carriage and all that.
Yeah, at some point. He's got his little red beard going on. Kind of looks like the Vikings real mascot, just with a red beard.
Good for him. I mean, I think everybody's probably in the same boat, except for when he's beating your team, which I apologize, Mac. But it is nice to see people, I guess, doing well. I mean, he seems like a likable character. It just that New York Jets scene. We'll see if Aaron Rodgers can figure it out. He just won a game, but anyways.
And like I said, somehow.
Sorry to cut you off.
Oh, you're good.
So Darnold though, so he played on the night. He's played behind Purdy last year for the Niners, right? Yep. And he did come in a few times, and he was slinging it, man. He was throwing it, and so when he played against the Niners and did what he did, I honestly wasn't surprised. He can throw the ball really well, and then he has some errant throws, and and then he was on the Jets, like you said, so like that's a rough start to a lot of pressures. And I think McCarthy was actually supposed to start ahead of him, so there's not a lot of expectation for him to come, so no pressure. He's just coming in through a 97-yard touchdown pass to Jefferson against awesome. Niners. Like awesome. He's just out there having fun. But like when you said Brian Flores, he called an excellent game against the Niners last week on defense. They had 6 sacks, bunch of pressures, hits, and Purdy has good pocket awareness, and he usually doesn't get sacked a ton, but they're getting to him. So I think Vikings will compete, but I think just Texans just will overpower them.
Yeah. I mean, maybe Vikings lose by 40 and I'm wrong, but that's what makes it fun.
I don't know. Brian Flores is a good mention. Him and Kevin O'Connell. They might just have really good coaching over there with some players that we don't know names of yet.
True. All right, well then we'll head over to the next game. Also an early game. We got Green Bay going to Tennessee. This one's interesting. Will Levis has made 11 starts in the NFL. He's 8-3 in the first half, so he's good in the first half, but then he's 1-10 in the second half. So they have some odds on FanDuel. It's a plus 950 for the Titans to be leading at halftime, but Green Bay to win. I'll start with this one. Dating back to 2017, the Packers are 5-2 against the spread when they have a backup in. I'm actually going to take the Packers in this one. I think LaFleur is good coach. I heard someone say with McVay, he's good offensively minded, that he'll work around injuries. And I think same thing here. I think LaFleur will put them where they need to be. He's got the weapons. Will Levis is not a good quarterback. That also plays into this. I'm taking Green Bay. What about you, Mac?
Yeah, I would pay to not watch this game. This game. This game is just bad TV. Willis, he got the win last week, which is cool to see. Him and Levis, though, that's not it's not gonna be fireworks, right? I still think Green Bay, though, as a whole team, they're the better team, so they'll probably scrape by and get another win. But on the Levis point too, and I think even his coach was kind of ragging on him after I think it was week 1 when they played the Bears, I think, and he was getting sacked and he threw it over his head. It was a pick 6, and his coach didn't even defend him. He was like, I forgot what he said, but he was just like, why was he throwing?
He basically said we'd have been better off punting every drive or something like that.
Right.
I didn't even hear that.
If they would have punted every drive, they would have won or something.
And then to your point, Mac, he has a very similar pick. It wasn't a pick 6 this time, but last Sunday he's getting sacked, falling to the ground, and he throws the ball, and it's like a meme right now on the internet of him in midair, full extension, throwing the ball, and it's just take the sack, man. You're winning, the game's tied, you'll get a field goal but his arm talent's there. I mean, he can sling it.
Oh yeah.
But man, I think you guys convinced me. I mean, I want to pick the Titans because I like Will Levis. I like the Mayo thing. I think it's funny. I'm not really a big Green Bay fan, even though I guess I have interest in rooting for them because I have some fantasy guys of theirs on my teams that I guess I want to see do well. But I think you guys are right. I guess I'm going to go with the Packers. But if Will Levis can air it out, and if they can get a lead, and if they can not let Josh Jacobs run all over them, the Titans have a real chance to win. But you guys convinced me. I'm gonna take the Packers.
Should be.
Yeah, I don't think it's the Packers aren't going to win. The Titans are going to lose.
Yeah, that's terrible. Oh man.
Well, that's what it is. Like I said, they lead at half, and then he's 1-10 straight up. Just he loses in the second half. And I think it was second week 2. He threw that after that pick when he was diving. I think his coach was caught on camera yelling, "What the F was that?" And yeah, I didn't even defend him. It's
all that mayonnaise in his coffee, I think.
Right. Oh,
misses his lady friend. I would too, And on that note, we're gonna jump over to the next game. We already covered the NOLA Eagles game. If anyone joined us late, all 3 of us were on New Orleans. We feel strong about them. We believe in them. But we got the Bears going into Anthony Richards, the Loud House. What do you think about this one, Dan? Who are you feeling?
I think I'm going to take the Chicago Bears, right? They've got a good defense. I think that offensive line is not doing Caleb Williams favors. But the other thing is I guess Caleb might be holding on to the ball too long is kind of what I heard Chris Collinsworth talk about in the last broadcast. He was getting rid of it a lot quicker last game. But, yeah, I really like Anthony Richardson just as a prospect, as a talent, fun player to watch. But I guess I'm going to take the Chicago Bears. I got to give it to Matt Eberflus. He's got a good defense.
Yeah, I'll hop in here next. Actually, the Bears as well. The Sharps are on the Bears. It's a close spread. They're only a 1.5 point underdog. I had more research in this game, but I knew I had a lot of other research, so I cut it out because it was about Richardson. He's not completing a lot of passes. I do like him, and I like the Colts. I want them to do good, but at some point, Chicago, Caleb Williams is going to have a good game at some point, and I think the Colts defense is pretty banged up. So from what I'm reading, the Sharps are on the Bears because of the defensive injuries. So I'm taking them as well. Who are you feeling on this one, Mac?
I'm going to take the Colts. I think pretty much just on the home field advantage. I think whenever they're in that stadium, and Richardson is just like you guys were saying, he looks very talented. And last week he didn't have a good game. I know. Week 1, I think it was, he threw like a off his back foot, no legs, and it was like 70 yards in the air right on the dime. So
Alec Pierce, I think, yeah.
So again, it's kind of a toss up for me. I think just Colts. Caleb Williams, like you were saying, is there's something missing there. He looks talented. He has good arm strength, accuracy. Sometimes the accuracy is a little off, and his receivers look a little frustrated. I've seen some memes like the receivers just get up and rip their helmet off and storm off to the sideline. So
the DJ Moore situation.
Yeah, that one.
He apologized for whatever that's worth. But yeah, it's frustrating too when the Texans are probably getting under their skin. I mean, that's a good team, like we talked about earlier, good defense. So Caleb Williams might find, and I could be wrong, Colts are a professional unit, but they might find that Colts are a little bit simpler to march on than the Houston Texans. We'll see.
Good point.
Oh, yeah. And then we got one I think is going to be low scoring because if you go back to last season, I do not believe in Justin Herbert or the Chargers. So I'll start with this one because I'm kind of giving it away. We have the Chargers going to Pittsburgh. I thought this was interesting. Since Big Ben is retired, the Steelers are the second most profitable team against the spread. So if you're into betting, that'd be take a look at them. I mean, it's not that I hate Herbert. I think he was been overhyped for so long. I think it's the first offseason where I don't hear him overhyped. So I think people are finally catching on. What I thought was kind of interesting, the Chargers just played in Carolina, decided to stay in the East Coast. So they're away from their comfy beds, playing in Pittsburgh. Give me Pittsburgh. And I'll kick it over to Mac. Who are you feeling for this one?
Oh, boy. I'm going to take Chargers. I think
wow.
I'm not a fan. It's Harbaugh's coming back and the whole deal with the Niners. So I don't know if kind of a love-hate relationship with Harbaugh. He's kind of I don't know, but he's done well. I think coming in, that's a good team for him to come into. He's a quarterback guru type coach, and I think he's doing a lot for Herbert. I think maybe less hype on Herbert may give him some, less pressure in him to live up to it a little bit more. I haven't really paid attention much to their games this year or his individual stats, so maybe you guys can fill me in. But I think they're 2-0, right? So something's clicking down there. So I think they take this one. The Steelers, I know they're 2-0 too, but I don't believe in that 2-0. I think Fields, I don't believe in him. Russell Wilson comes back. I don't think he's going to do anything magical either. Playing in Pittsburgh is tough. All those terrible towels waving. I know that, but I'm still taking Chargers. I think they're talented enough.
Yeah, and they TJ Watt's huge. And like I said, yeah, Herbert's 2-0, but he hasn't been throwing the ball well. Who do you think has more passing yards, Justin Fields or Justin Herbert?
Oh, boy. It's gonna be Fields, isn't it? After I'd said all that.
It's Herbert by 1 yard. That's what I'm saying. He's 2-0, but again, Carolina, come on,
That's interesting. Okay.
And then the money is kind of split on this game. The total has dropped from 42.5 to 35.5. So I'm not even touching that. That's why I think it's going to be a low scoring. And I think I saw somewhere Mike Tomlin is really good in low scoring game, one possession games specifically. He has a really great record. So do I want to take the Steelers? No, but I think TJ Watt, I think that defense is just really good. They're at home. I think if it was later in the season, it was cold, I'd for sure take the Steelers, but I'm sticking with the Steelers here. Kind of rambling on. What are you thinking, Danny Stone? Who are you taking here?
No, you're good. I agree. I'm going to actually take I'm sorry, go ahead, SamMeeBee.
Yeah, so you gave a wow, so I have my wow counter on. Because you gave a wow with that.
Because I'm going to take the Steelers as well. So it's nice to hear a different perspective to answer kind of Mac's question as far as Justin Herbert, I think, has more passing touchdowns than Justin Fields. I don't even know if Justin Fields has one yet because I think Herbert threw 2 last week. But they've been running the ball a lot with J.K. Dobbins, who's had over 100 yards in back-to-back games, and then Gus Edwards as well, I think. So the offense is efficient, or not efficient's not the right word, but they are scoring enough to win games, and the defense has been pretty good. But I'm going to take the Steelers. I just think TJ Watt's that dude. I think even if Aaron Donald was playing this year, respectfully, like the best defensive player would be TJ Watt, not Aaron Donald, which I don't mean it. That probably comes off. He probably would slap me. But yeah, TJ Watt's a monster. And I think that he basically, like he did week 1 against Atlanta, I would argue he won them that game, him and Chris Boswell. I kind of think it's going to be similar. I think they're going to get after Herbert, and Harbaugh is going to have his first loss at the hands of Mike Tomlin. But I still think the Chargers with Harbaugh should be in for probably a more fun year than they've had in a little while.
All I heard is some bulletin board material for Aaron Donald. He's calling you weak. You better come back in the league and prove him wrong,
Gotta prove me wrong. Hey, I would let him come on back.
Yeah, you're right. Herbert does have more passing touchdowns, 3-1. But Fields hasn't been throwing the ball much, so he has no picks. Herbert has 1, and looks like Fields has 2.4% better completing percentage. Can't even say that.
Herbert took a really big hit last week too, running the ball, and I have to think Harbaugh is like, come on, man, like just you don't need to play hero ball. Like it's fine. Like just the last thing we need is you getting hurt.
And like I said, it's only Wednesday, but the money is kind of split between the two. I think it's 56% to the Chargers. So we'll see what happens. But I'm still sticking with Pittsburgh.
Yep. But you never know. I like Mac's take.
Yeah, I like it. And then we got. All right, we'll move on to the next game. We got the Denver Broncos heading to Tampa Bay. I'll start with this one here. Denver did lose an offensive lineman. We talked about how that's really hurting the Rams. Bo Nix, who I wanted the Rams to draft, is 11 of 36 for 212 yards and 4 picks on passes more than 5 yards. I don't think I need to say anymore. Tampa beat, Detroit in Detroit. I believe in Baker. That's why I picked the Buccaneers to win the division. So I'm taking the Buccaneers to win this game and cover the spread. And I'll kick over to Danny Stone. You agree with me, or what are you feeling?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it would be like, again, any given Sunday, anything can happen, and I mean that all too well. And I mean that sincerely. However, there's no way that I can seriously say that I'm going to pick Denver to win. I'm going to take the Buccaneers. It's only 2 weeks in, but after last year's debacle with Russell Wilson, and I know Sean Payton's got a huge contract, but honestly, like it will get to a point where it's like, what is wrong with Sean Payton's system that it's not working, because he's expected to figure it out. But it's only 2 weeks, and I think that Bo Nix, because I think they went against, like, the Steelers might be the best defensive unit in all of football. So give credit where credit's due. He got through that. He survived. Hopefully only up from here for him. But I still got to take the Bucs this week for sure.
Yeah, and I mentioned the spread. I didn't say the number. It opened at 3.5. It's up to 6.5. Do you think the Buccaneers can win by a touchdown?
I mean, yeah. I mean, I believe I grabbed the Buccaneers defense in a fantasy league because they're calling them Bo Picks right now. Like that's literally like a thing that some people are calling them. So
draft them now. I'll pick them up.
Yes, yeah. So but who knows, because maybe Sean Payton's got a strategy, and maybe Bo Nix, like, players get better. Maybe he saw something, or maybe just not having TJ Watt screaming at him for 4 quarters, he'll feel a little bit better. But the Bucs look great against the Lions. They look great in week 1 against Washington. I mean, the Bucs and Saints look like the top 2 teams in the NFC, and I wouldn't have predicted that going into the season.
Yeah. What about you, Mac? You think who are you picking in this one?
Yeah, I think Bucks easily. I don't think Broncos cover. I don't think they get close to it. They're really good against really bad. You guys were saying Knicks. I feel bad because I like the guy. He went to Oregon. I like Oregon. I think he'll end up doing decent in the NFL, but he's just in a bad situation right now, a bad team. They traded away Judy, one of the best receivers. And I honestly don't remember who he's even throwing to at this point. It looks
Sutton.
Yeah, there's Sutton.
No, he plays for the Broncos. He's throwing to the other team, remember?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He has almost as many completions to other teams as he does to his own team.
Man.
No, I think he's good. I think he's a good quarterback, just in a bad situation.
Yeah.
And then Baker is. I didn't honestly. How did the Browns feel right now? With Baker leaving the Browns and getting Watson and kind of flip-flopping the talent almost, like he's doing phenomenal in Tampa Bay, and I can't argue that they're one of the top teams in the NFC right now. They're putting up points. Their defense is holding up, so it's like I think this one's probably one of the easiest picks for me this week. Bucks over Broncos.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're in a survivor pool or whatever, if you haven't picked the Bucks yet, I guess.
And I'm seeing a lot of stats you probably see online too, like, oh, ever since they left Carolina, Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield, this is their record and passing touchdowns. It's pretty crazy to see. And before we move on from this game, Danny Stone being a writer for the Rams, what's the connection with Bo Nix and the Rams? Is it like the GM or something?
I don't know about. I think I have heard that the Rams were kind of interested in him, but I actually don't know. If you know something, please share. You might know more than me.
I know the exact details. I think it's like his grandfather played with the GM of the Rams, Les Snead, like a big connection. Okay. So like there was a lot of talks of the Rams trading up to get him, and I was okay with that. I really want the Rams to draft a quarterback to learn under McVay and staff really have them. But that's a separate topic. So
no, I think
some connection there.
It's fair because I'm thinking about Bo Nix and his introduction to the NFL is the Seattle Seahawks, who I think Mike McDonald is their new head coach, and he had a great defense in Baltimore last year. Then he's playing the Steelers. Now he's playing the Bucks. That's a tough stretch of defenses, I think. So I agree with you guys. I think he'll get better, and maybe it would have been a really nice situation had the Rams been able to trade up, which the rumors are they wanted to trade up for like Brock Bowers, but maybe that's a smokescreen and they wanted Bo Nix. I don't know. So,
well, we'll go from one bad team to another bad team. We got the Carolina Panthers who made a change to the Red Rifle, Andy Dalton. That actually did move the spread up a full point. So that's interesting seeing going to Vegas. I'll let Mac start this one. What are you feeling wins in this game?
Oh boy! So seeing Bryce Young in there, I feel you gotta feel bad for him. You gotta feel for any quarterback who goes into a bad situation. But
totally.
But they put up 3 points last week, I think, and they just look bad. And Dalton, I like Dalton. I think he can throw it around. I honestly wouldn't be surprised. I'm gonna go with the Panthers. I'm gonna go with the surprise. I wouldn't be surprised that Dalton comes in, which is not gonna look good for Young, because if Dalton comes in and he wins, it's not gonna look good. But I can see it happening. I think Dalton can go in there and throw it around. And teams can a team go 0-17? They got to get a win somewhere. So I'm gonna go on a limb and say Panthers. Dalton takes the Panthers to a win this week. Low scoring game, like 16-10 or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the low scoring too, and I think I saw like fantasy wise, this will definitely help Adam Thielen and Deontay Johnson, who came from Pittsburgh. So I don't know if it seemed like Bryce was just scrambling too much and not really looking for receivers. And like you said, kind of like I feel like these teams are so worried about talent players. Like look at Chicago, they have all these good receivers, 3 good receivers, number 1 pick on Caleb, but then their offensive line isn't good. So they're so worried about the superstars and stars that they're not building that. So I don't know if that's the issue with Carolina. I almost want to take Carolina too, because the Raiders had that huge win last week. Like, are they going to have a hangover? I don't know. But then going back to some of my crazy stats I was looking up, when a team is a 7 or greater underdog and they win and then is favored the next week by 5 or more, they're 8-0 since 2016. Going back to 2013, they're 12-2. So I'm taking Vegas here. What about you, Danny Stone?
Yeah, you guys are bringing up good points, and I'm kind of torn. I don't know. I definitely think Andy Dalton will make the offense more functional, and if he doesn't, then it really is questions of team building and how not sound that roster is. Because the image that I keep thinking of is I saw like a GIF of like Adam Thielen, and he's open last week, and it's and I don't know what's going on Young's side because they don't see it whether he's getting forced out or not, but like the ball doesn't go to Thielen and he might be able to grab it and go for a touch. Like he's behind the defense.
Yeah, that's the exact play I was referring to. That was the exact play where he was scrambling without even reading the defense.
He's not even.
He just.
And maybe he's scared. He's shook, and maybe that's what they saw on film, and that's why they're like, we need to replace him, or else we're going to lose this locker room. I think Max Crosby's why I'm going to pick the Raiders. I think he's going to make life very hard for Andy Dalton, but I think. I would almost be surprised if Andy Dalton doesn't throw a couple passing touchdowns. And again, if it looks really bad, or like I've heard some people talk about, like if he gets hurt and Bryce Young has to come back in, like this Panther season could be like a disaster like a really historic one. But I'm not rooting for that, although I'll watch it. But yeah, I'm going to take the Raiders, but I expect Andy Dalton to have that team be functional, and it changes the fantasy landscape, I think, for Panthers players for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I can see a lot of these quarterbacks have been passing for a lot of yards. Red Waffle can come in and probably be the top quarterback with a good game, you know?
We'll see.
Yeah, I heard Thielen. Thielen was banged up a little bit, but he's healthy, right?
Yeah,
as far as I know.
Okay. Yeah, I think that matters a lot too for Dalton coming in, veteran receiver, veteran quarterback, go out there play catch, right? And two games I thought was a little fluky last week. The Raiders beating the Ravens, I thought that was a little fluky.
Sure.
And I think the Cardinals Rams, I thought that was fluky as well. But yeah, definitely the Raiders. I think that they just got they hit a little lucky time. Maybe I'm a Raider hater because Niner fan from the area, but I think so. I think it's a little fluky. So I think the Panthers.
Yeah, I mean, I just think Carolina is such a terrible team. I'm always going against them. But to Danny Stone's point, Max Crosby, that's like T.J. Watt. It's like if I don't know if I'm iffy on the matchup, boom, T.J. Watt made the difference there. Same thing. I mean, this isn't even close for me to be that, but if it was close, I'm like, yeah, Max Crosby, unstoppable. All right, we'll hop over to the next game. We got Miami going to Seattle. I want to start first because I want to get crazy with here. I think Tua is a terrible quarterback. I think he's the Hawaiian Danny Dimes. I think it's good that he's hurt, so that way the team can actually win without him. I'm taking Miami. They got too many weapons.
That's a really intense take. Obviously,
we're not
happy Tua is hurt, obviously. You just mean you want to see a different quarterback in there.
So I got too excited. Yeah, all the research says take Seattle. Backups are not doing good. Don't even touch Miami. But I think Miami – I don't think Tua is a good quarterback. I had a do not draft list. Kelsey was on that list because there's too many weapons in Kansas City. Cough, cough. And then Tua was one of them. I was like, don't even touch him. He's not – I don't think he's that good of a quarterback. I said the Hawaiian Danny Dimes. I don't know if Miami's going to bring in a new quarterback, someone. I think they should trade for Joe Flacco. Can you imagine that cannon with Tyreek? Dang. They need him, but he's in the backup for the Colts. So, yeah, I'm going wild. My research says not to, but I'm taking Miami here. What about you, Danny Stone?
No way, man. I got to take the Seattle Seahawks. I think the Seahawks are good. I mean, I had them preseason predictions. I had them beating the Rams the first game they played this year. Like, I think Seattle is going to be good. I don't know if they'll win the division. I still think the Niners probably do that, but I think Seattle's good. I like the new head coach. As far as I know, he's a good defensive coach, and I think that's something Seattle can really thrive on. I think there's a ceiling with Geno Smith, but you also have a floor. Like, he looks, tying it back into the Sam Darnold Jets disaster. Geno Smith was also a part of some not very good Jets teams. So yeah, I'm gonna take the Seattle Seahawks. Credit to Geno Smith. I don't think Tua is nearly as bad as you do. I think he's a starter in the NFL if he can stay healthy. But I don't know. Skylar Thompson, I think, is who they have going out there. I'll go with the veteran Geno Smith. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know the injury wise. I think Raheem Mostert was hurt, but they have a lot of weapons in the backfield with Achane, Mostert. They drafted this guy from Tennessee, right? Really fast. And I think there's another running back. But anyway, that's 4 running backs outside the receivers. I'm like, they should just bring back the Wildcat, you know? Can you imagine that? Do a little jet sweep. I think that's what
they are. Maybe that's what they're planning. I mean, that's something you can probably get away with for a little while. Because
Tyreek's so fast. Like, just throw a little bubble screen. I mean, that's what it might be. It might be like a Sean McVay where every play is a motion, you know? So
yeah.
I don't know. I know I'm wild, but how to do one. What do you think? What about you, Mac? You agree with me?
Yeah, no, I do agree that Tua, I don't think Tua is as good as people put out there. I think he's on a really good roster, really good coaching staff. He has Tyreek Hill that you can throw a 7-yard slant and he could take it to the house 80 yards. Waddle, he has so many weapons. So it's like getting the ball out of your hand and just get into your receiver. I think that's where a lot of his success came from. I do think he's a quality starter, but I don't think he's like a top 10 quarterback. But it does hurt that he went down, no pun intended. Skylar Thompson came in, and like I don't know if you have stats on that second half when he came in or the last quarter or whatever.
Mhm.
He did really bad, and
It
so
was rough.
I think. Oh, sorry.
is he starting this game? I think they just signed.
They signed Brent Huntley from the
Yeah,
Ravens
Huntley.
practice squad. Snoop Huntley, I think is his nickname, but I think because it's midweek, they're going to let Skyler get a chance to earn it. But if he's not doing very well, I could see him getting benched like at halftime or after this game. Hey, we'll see. We'll see. They still have Waddle and Hill. You guys are right.
I even saw some Colin Kaepernick rumors.
Oh wow,
signing him off the streets, and
all right.
I don't think that's right. That's the right play for them right now. He probably hasn't played football in a couple years, but yeah, I'm gonna go Dolphins. Maybe this is the NFC West, like lose Seahawks kind of. I was when the Niners and Seahawks were going back at it. Seahawks became my new the team I rooted against the most out of any, more than Cowboys now. But since Russell Wilson left and Legion and Boom, that's kind of died down. But I still think Dolphins I think they take this. I think it's gonna be a little more competitive. It is in Seattle, so I can also see the Seahawks blowing them out. But I'm gonna take the Dolphins maybe just as like a quasi like homer pick right now.
All right.
Yeah,
you guys might be right.
Couple things there. Skyler came in. I don't really hold it against a quarterback when they come in for an injury and don't do good because they don't get the reps, throughout the week. So I don't know how he did. I think a full week will do good. I think it was the first drive last week. Seattle at home turned the ball over, but Bo Nix has no weapons and they settled for a field goal. So I think it's possible that Seattle can, if they turn the ball over once or twice, Miami just has to have a. Was it just play, just not turn the ball over? Or what do they call the quarterbacks? It's like a game manager. Just be a game manager.
Yeah.
I don't know why I couldn't think of the term. So I think it's just be a game manager, get the ball to your receivers, don't turn the ball over. So many weapons. I think that's gonna be the difference there.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I had one more thing, but now I'm blanking out on it. But that's all right. We had a fun matchup here. We got Baltimore going into the Dallas. Danny Stone, what are you feeling about this? I know Dallas had both teams had a tough loss. Surprisingly.
Yeah, this is a really good matchup. I guess I'm going to go with the Ravens. I'm going to say that Lamar Jackson just puts the team on his back and just does his Lamar Jackson thing. Has a big fantasy day, and ultimately earns the dub for his team. I'm going to go with the Ravens, but people are going to be like, oh, Dallas. I still think Dallas will be competitive. I don't know if they have a deep playoff run. It's been a while since they've had that, but they're very good in the regular season, and I don't mean that disrespectfully in this moment. I expect them to have a good regular season, especially with the issues the Eagles seem to be having. It seems like it's Dallas's division to win, and I would still say that even if they lose to the Ravens this Sunday. But so I'm going to pick the Ravens.
Nice. What about you, Mac? This should be a good one, I think. I kind of want to watch this one.
Yeah, this is so hard to pick too because teams respond differently when they have bad losses, I think. And Dallas is back at home, which they always seem to, whenever they're playing on that star, they're always, besides last week, I guess, but they're always doing well. I'm going to lean towards the Cowboys. I'm going to pick them as tight, high-scoring game, I think. Cowboys are going to come out, Dak's going to come out throwing a lot, I think. Ravens, do they go 0-3 for the first? When's the last time they went 0-3? But I can see it happening. I'm gonna pick that because I think the Cowboys are just that talented all around, offense, defense.
I know I picked the Ravens, but I can see it happening too. I could definitely see Dallas winning this game.
Yeah, this one's kind of a toss-up to me.
Yeah, two I think good teams that we'll still be talking about in November and December.
Yep.
And this is the first time the Ravens fell to 0-2 since 2015. So
okay, there you go. Almost 10 years.
Yeah, and that's just 0-2. So I don't know 0-3. I had that. I actually had that saved, and I think the spread. I'm trying to find it real quick. I think it is 1. Yeah, so Baltimore's favored by 1.5. So I think it opened at Cowboys by 1.5. So it was close all around. So but you're taking Dallas in a close one. So this one I kind of had tossed up. I wasn't sure who I wanted. And then I had to look into my stats and the records, Do you know how good Lamar is against the NFC? He's 20-3 against NFC teams.
Wow.
So that's just one where it's like goes back to Josh Allen, because like I took Miami last week. I hate going back in time, but I was like, who does Josh Allen have, like weapon wise, receiving room? There's no way he can win in Miami, but he does. So Lamar's 20-3, and then Tom Brady's calling this game. And in the last two games, the first two games that he called, the road team has won. So with those two factors, I'm taking Baltimore to win this one.
Wow. All right. There you go.
So I don't know. I haven't been watching too many of the games. I've been a lot of traveling. Any feedback on Tom Brady? He's been doing pretty good as a analyst.
I don't
I've heard him
have a problem
very
with it.
little.
I haven't really listened to him that much because I'm usually doing Red Zone, and then he hasn't done a Rams game.
Yeah.
But I don't have a problem with the sound bites I heard. I think people are going to hate on him. I don't love him as a football player. He beat the Rams in 2 Super Bowls, but I don't wish ill on the man.
Yeah.
He's no Tony Romo.
Yeah. I feel like Romo.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
All right. So that was a fun one to cover. So I'm excited to watch that one. So then the next matchup, we got Jared Goff and the Lions heading to Arizona. I'll start with this one. I actually kind of believe in Arizona.
Yeah.
I mean, I was definitely surprised it won last week, but Danny Stone and I do this thing where we pick teams for the whole season. You do a preseason, you get points for each win. And Arizona was a team I wanted. Yeah, it's kind of like a DFS. Each team has a dollar value. So I thought Arizona was going to get some wins. I think they're going to do better because a healthy Murray is pretty good and has been pretty good. So I'm actually taking Arizona to win this game. I said I think they're pretty good. And then what about you, Danny Stone? Who you feeling?
I'm going to take the Detroit Lions. I think Aiden Hutchinson, unlike the Rams defense, who, like, if you look back at it, at least from what I recall, like the Rams are forcing him out of the pocket. They're just not getting him. And he even like broke some sacks. Like he was just dynamite, Kyler Murray was. And I expect Aiden Hutchinson to be more of a finisher than the Rams defensive front was. And so I think they'll be able to keep Kyler in check. I think this will be a good game. And I think the Cardinals can definitely win, but I'll ultimately pick the Detroit Lions, who I just think are a little bit better and can just kind of run it at them. Goff hasn't been off to a great start, but I think he'll be okay. Amon-Ra, this could really go out. This should be a good game. But yeah, I'm going to go with the Detroit Lions ultimately because of their defense. And I texted this with you, SamMeeBee, and I'll say it. I mean, I do think at a certain point, Kyler Murray will wear down because that seems to be kind of historically what happens. He gets tired out, as a lot of players do as the season goes on. And I think that's where the Cardinals will slow down. But until then, this is a really dangerous team who almost was 2-0 had they held on to their 17-3 lead they had over the Bills. I mean, they could be 2-0 right now.
And I picked them to cover the spread in that game. So as I said, I do believe in Arizona with a healthy Murray. That's the main thing. And it's also their second season under
Gannon, who looks good. He looks like a good coach.
Yeah, so I think sometimes like, oh, now it's a full season and you worked through his system and now you have it. What about you, Mac? Who are you feeling for this one? You're a tiebreaker.
I'm gonna take the Lions. I'm not totally sold as you guys are on the Cardinals. I still view them as that. Like I see Murray as that more of an immature. You're saying that towards he falls off, right? And I saw headlines come out. It's usually when Call of Duty games come out.
100%. 100%.
And I heard one's coming out in late October. So maybe this feels like that older brother and little brother matchup. It's like where Lions are like Goff's the older veteran. He's like that season. They're probably pissed off from that game last week they had. Cardinals coming in maybe a little overly cocky because they just beat the Rams and Stafford. And they beat them by a lot. I think this one's going to be a walkaway for the Lions. I think they're going to come handle business and Cardinals are going to crash down to earth just a little bit. I think they got good talent. Marvin Harrison Jr. looks great if Murray gets him the ball or when Murray gets him the ball. But I think just they'll get there. But I think when they hit teams like the Lions and the really well-balanced teams, they might have a little bit of trouble. So I think this could be a couple score game. I think they're winning by 14, 17 points, honestly.
I think it's funny, too, because it's probably hard for SamMeeBee and I to not have a bit of a bias just after they just dropped 41 on our team. It's just hard for us not to take them seriously. So it cracked me up because you're just like, yeah, I'm not too worried about him. And it's like, We just saw them kill our team, but you're in
Yeah.
a different boat. You're in a completely different.
It's also
funny.
because their running back I saw beat my high school, and he played for your high school. So
Yeah,
familiar
James
with
Conner,
that.
yeah.
And actually, I'm going to the game on the 29th. I'll be at the Commanders Cardinals game. Maybe I'll have to do some live updates while I'm
There
there.
you go. Yeah.
And I remember last season the Lions winning week 1 against Kansas City, but then falling week 2, and I just looked it up. It was Seattle. So then I'm like, that's what they seem to do. They seem to have a great first week win and then lose week 2. So they lost to
Interesting.
Tampa because, like I said earlier, went back to Stefanski is undefeated against the spread in week 3. So I don't know. There's always weird trends. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I do believe in them. And then we'll move on along. We already talked about the Niners Rams. We did decide that's a forfeit of a game, so it's already canceled. No one's watching it. And then we got a primetime Sunday game. We got Kansas City going to Atlanta, who just also was on the line primetime game on Monday. Danny Stone, you want to start with this one? How you feeling for this one?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to go with the Kansas City Chiefs. All credit in the world to Kirk Cousins, who I thought tale of two halves to some extent. He started kind of throwing the ball a bit better, I thought, the second half. There's even a play where Darnell Mooney seems to stop, and he's not, and Kirk Cousins airs it out past him, and had Mooney kept running, the game might have been totally different as far as Arizona it just might have not come down to as close as it was. But regardless, I'm going to go with the Kansas City Chiefs, who I still think are the best team in football. And until proven otherwise, I'm going to continue to think they're the best team in football. I don't care how scrappy or ugly their wins are, or if they take a loss here or there. I think ultimately they're going to be there in February as the best team in football. And I'm going to take the Kansas City Chiefs over the Atlanta Falcons. But I like the Falcons. I like Raheem Morris. But I guess as a Rams fan, though, too, I'm rooting for any AFC team to beat an NFC team because that helps for seeding. But, yeah, even with my heart out of it, Chiefs, Chris Jones, Patrick Mahomes, the whole 9 yards. I think Xavier Worthy, I have a lot of fantasy stock in him. I hope that pans out. We'll see.
Yeah. I'll hop into this one. Right. I'll hop into this one next.
Now.
I picked up Kareem Hunt,
The list of weapons, Pacheco getting hurt's a bummer, but I think they'll be all right. Maybe I'm wrong.
Well, their other running back, Steele, wasn't he? Was he the rugby player that just came over?
People really want that to be a thing, and I may or may not have him in a league or two. I don't know if he is going to be a thing, but Carson Steele is a great name. I think he's an undrafted rookie. He's a fullback. People love that stuff, and he's in a very. I mean, it's a high flying offense. I mean, with Worthy and Rashee Rice, I know they're not Tyreek Hill in his prime, at least at this point, but it seems like it can be that kind of offense back when Patrick Mahomes had Kareem Hunt in his prime, who coincidentally and ironically is back in KC, and Tyreek Hill in his prime and Travis Kelce in his prime. I think Mac, you said earlier, no, SamMeeBee, you said earlier you didn't really like Kelce this year in fantasy. They just have so many weapons, and they do seem to have a lot of. And they have the foundational pieces. They have a good defense. They have a young team. I don't mean to. They're just really good. It's mind-boggling. And Patrick Mahomes is incredible. It's unbelievable.
And I like Travis Kelce, so it wasn't against him. It was just he's aging.
I didn't take it that way.
Yeah, his brother's out, so almost. And I know his podcast, he got pretty big deals. So I'm like, not saying he's taking football less serious. I'm just like, I think he's gonna put a lot into it. And with all the weapons, I know they just announced Hollywood Brown's out for the season, but.
Yep.
Even without that.
That's right, yeah. I think he's there to try to win 3 in a row. I mean, I don't know if he's still there. That's not it's just why not? You can make history.
I'll jump in here. I'm taking Kansas City to win. I think it's going to be close. For people that bet, they probably know Kansas City is one of the worst teams against the spread. So I'm just taking the money line just to win. A lot of people think Kirk Cousins doesn't win in prime time. It's not just prime time. Anytime a game is after 1 p.m. Eastern time, he's 20-38, which is a 35% winning percentage. So when he was in Minnesota, that was still the 1 p.m. Eastern game. So he was always playing those. And the Chiefs,
he just won his 20th game Monday, I guess. After 1, yeah.
So and the Chiefs, we all need to know this, that when Taylor Swift is in attendance, the Chiefs are 12-3. So give me Kansas City.
It's amazing.
It's a late game. She'll make it. Her jet will be there. What about you, Mac? I'll let you finish this one up. Who are you feeling for this game?
Yeah, as much as I want to say Falcons, I'm picking Chiefs. It's an easy pick, I think. I I know the Kirk Cousins magic against Philly. That was cool to see. I really like that.
Me
You
too.
like that? You like that? Yeah.
And my buddy's an Eagles fan, but that was cool. I did like that.
Yeah. But even if he does that again, like Chiefs just find ways to win at the end of the game. Like I thought the Bengals had it in the bag against. I was like, yeah, and then the Chiefs just like calmly walk down the field and it kicked the game-winning field goal. It was like it looked easy for them. So
yeah,
I've seen them taking this as much as I want to pick against them as a Niners fan. And I'm tired of seeing Taylor Swift on every time the Chiefs big play and they show her in the booth, hugging. You gotta think that's like publicity, right? I mean, kudos to the NFL for being, doing that and probably getting more viewers, but I don't know.
Unless it's the ultimate con, I think it's genuine, and they really, as much as two mega celebrities can love each other, and it's just kind of, I think it's just one of those things. She's the most popular person on the planet, and she happens to be dating a football player, and she goes to his games. But who knows? It could be.
Yeah, I think it's sincere, but their relationship. But I think the NFL is like, we
might as well milk it. Why not? Yeah, I mean,
ooh la la.
And it's not just them; it's the networks too. Like ABC's, like, well, people are going to watch the NFL game, but we can get a bunch of Swifties to tune in because we'll show Taylor for maybe 60 seconds the whole game, but those 60 seconds are invaluable to the army of Swifties. So yeah. I don't hate on it myself, but I get it. People just want to watch the game. I mean, they don't want to. Yeah.
Yeah, and I wonder if that's why Travis Kelce has put it together. Maybe that's why he's having a bad season. He knew every time he caught the ball, the camera was going to her. So he's like trying to help my people. So, and then we got comments saying, "Hey, Tay-Tay didn't want to be the main character. Hey, I think she should." I can't believe they don't have her at the Super Bowl by now. Like, we know the Chiefs are going to be there. We already got the script, man. Like, I don't know.
Wild, but I digress. We can talk about that another time. That's pretty wild.
Yeah. We can talk next time how his appearance has changed from a bad boy to Uncle Rico. I think everyone's seen those memes now. All right, so that'll be a fun one. So we're all on the Chiefs there, and we'll hop on the next game. There's 2 Monday night games this week. Kind of be a little fun for that.
Yeah.
This one, I'll start with this one first. Since December 1st of last season, Bryce Young is 1-7. The next worst quarterback, he's probably actually worse, is Trevor Lawrence. He's 0-7 since December 1st. So he's been doing pretty bad. Like I said, Buffalo played last Thursday, so they have additional rest. They proved me wrong that they can win without a strong receiving room. So I am taking the Bills because of the additional rest, and I'm taking them to cover the spread as well.
What do you mean? James Cook is their number one receiver. They got a very strong receiving room.
And this might be low scoring. Like I said, for some reason, not just Thursday night, Monday night games are low scoring. I think it was last year. The first half was 14-7-1. So, or since the start of last season. So I'm taking under in the first half, but the Bills to win. What about you, Danny Stone? Who are you feeling for here?
This is totally a game that I think, just like classic Bills, they could lose, and Jacksonville gets a win, just a gutsy, gritty win. Because I tell you what, since Trevor Lawrence has been in the NFL, and it goes back to that Urban Meyer year, they did win a couple games, and I give credit to Trevor Lawrence for hanging in there. I know he's on a bad streak, and I am going to pick the Bills, but I just won't be surprised at all if somehow, some way, Jacksonville gets a win. But I tell you what, and I don't mean to put this in the ether, but I don't think I am. If Jacksonville keeps losing, it's not just going to be a Trevor Lawrence problem. It's going to be a Doug Peterson problem. Because at this point, Trevor Lawrence is paid. I don't think they're going to move on from him. They'll try to correct him or fix it, quote unquote. But we'll see. And they usually do well in London. I think they'll have some London games coming up, so they might be all right. But I'm going to take the Bills in this one.
Yeah, you brought up a point I was just about to bring up. I'm only taking Jacksonville if it's in London. They're pretty good over there. What about you? What about you, Mac? Who are you feeling for this game?
I agree. I think I'm taking the Bills. I think this could be one of those games that you're like watching, like 27-7 Bills, and you're like falling asleep. And you wake up, it's like Jaguars tied it up with a minute left.
Yeah.
But yeah, even at that point, I'd still think the Bills. They're always good in crunch time. I think they're super talented. like always, but this year I think they're gonna be there. December, January timeframe. Playoffs. They're gonna be competing for the AFC Championship. This game, Jaguars they look pretty bad. I can't in any. When I saw the two games on Monday night, I was like, oh man, those don't even seem like good matchups. But I'll stop complaining about the match. But yeah,
I'll complain about it. Don't worry, I got.
It's more fantasy stuff than it is good matchups, I think, quote unquote.
I got the Bills defense though, so I think I'm good there. I think I'll play them.
Yeah.
In primetime games, always seem to be close. The Bills, I think, are 5.5-point favorite. I think it should be bigger. I wonder if it's because it's a primetime game that the scoring's usually lower, games are closer. So I'm like, I'm not even touching the spread because I don't know what to expect.
And it's not like the league would purposely want people to stay watching the game and maybe would have refs consider that or anything. So yeah, I'm sure it's just coincidental that the primetime games are always close.
We'll move over to the next game. I made a comment last season that we're going to use again. The NFL likes to shove the NFC East down our throats, no matter how terrible they are. So that's why we have the Commanders here. And I am taking the Bengals. Like I said, another one of my weird stats I came across. Joe Burrow, through weeks 1 and 2, has a record of 1-9. So he's never good the first 2 weeks, but in week 3, he's 3-0-1. He tied, I think, in 2020. So week 3 is when he finally kicks into gear. Cincinnati definitely doesn't want to start 0-3, so I'm taking Cincinnati to win this game. What about you, Mac? I'll let you go next.
Yeah, Cincinnati, hands down. I was thinking, can they just convert the games and the Bills and play the Bengals, and then the Commanders play the Jaguars?
There you go. I like that.
A Sunday morning game or something.
Flex the schedule. Just outright.
I really like the Bengals. They competed like they always do against the Chiefs so hard last week, and that Jamar Chase situation that seems kind of weird. I don't know what's going on with that. I know he wants a contract and all that, but that might be having to do with his on the field antics. He had a really late penalty last week that hurt them, and I think that's him being disgruntled just about everything. So that'd be interesting to watch the rest of the season. But yeah, Bengals, and I don't even think it's close. I think 31-17 or something like that.
They're only favored by 7.5, so
I think they cover.
What about you, Danny Stone? Give your feedback on this game here.
Yeah, well, I think this is the last game. I'm looking forward to. I'll probably listen to this tomorrow while I'm doing paperwork, and I'm excited about it. This has been a lot of fun. Thank you, Nova, for the extra noises. Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Bengals as well. I think it's exciting. Joe Burrow versus Jaden Daniels, the young quarterbacks. I think that's cool. I think Daniels is an exciting player. I have him on a fantasy team. But ultimately, I'm going to go with the Bengals as well. I think they're a more complete team. I think Dan Quinn can absolutely make the Washington Commanders relevant. I just don't know if that's going to be this year. But I do like some of their weapons, Jaden Daniels, Brian Thomas. I like Terry McLaurin. Not Brian Thomas, Brian Robinson. I like Terry McLaurin. Brian Thomas is a Jacksonville guy. But yeah, I'm going to take the Bengals as well for all the reasons you guys said.
Yeah, and if you saw the light changing on my face because I'm kind of doing some additional research, it looks like the Bengals have given up the third lowest passing yards so far this season. I know it's short. This is something I'll probably see what Jaden Daniels' passing yards is and take the under because I think the trend continues. It's going to be low passing. His passing yards is 196 on BetMGM, not a sponsor. So I would take the under on that. So, and that wraps up the games. But I wanted to bring up this little thing here. I had this little quarterback A, quarterback B. I don't know if you can rate it. So I want to know. So this is through, was it 96 games? 1 second. Through 95 games. This is 2 different quarterbacks. So the hint is one quarterback just had their 95th game. So can you see the numbers? Let me read them to you. I want to know which one you like better. Who would you rather have, quarterback A or B? So quarterback A has less passing yards, but not by much. 3 more passing touchdowns, about 7 less interceptions. But quarterback B has a better record at 49-46. Can you see?
I think A, right? It's got to be a trick.
I'm trying to guess by their shadows. No,
yeah, can you tell? Once you know who it is, the one quarterback B who's retired, His form
he's
kind of looks the
retired.
same.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's retired. Okay.
So this is through the first 95 games of their career.
And the one on the left is still current.
Yep. So he just has 95th game. So it's
boy,
Baker and Drew Brees.
I should have said Baker. I should have just said it's
Whoa.
Baker. Oh, I could have looked so
This
smart
is-
if I would have just said it's Baker.
And that's what I'm
This
saying.
blows my mind.
I know. So Baker has more touchdowns, not by much, a lot less interceptions. That's what surprised me. And the record, I'm like, I didn't realize Drew Brees started off so slow, but yeah.
And I remember Drew Brees. You think older quarterbacks, they didn't air it out as much in the new game, but I thought I remembered Drew Brees throwing them, like airing it out all the time, and seeing this just blows my mind.
I think you remember the Jimmy Graham years.
Yeah.
Like Marquise Colston. Like there was a time where he had some weapon. Namely, I was actually talking with some buddies about how Jimmy Graham was just a fantasy god for a little bit there.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then he's more known for his completion percentage, though, to your point, than he is airing it out. But that doesn't mean he couldn't do it. I wish I would have said Baker Mayfield. I'm going to be kicking myself.
That's what you're thinking
I
about?
was thinking him or Jared Goff, or somebody who just had a rough rookie season, because that's why he has more losses than wins.
Yeah, I mean, it's a silhouette. It's going to be hard to guess.
His rookie season wasn't that bad. It's more the year that his shoulder is when the Browns basically get rid of him. But anyways.
Yeah, awesome. Well, it's a little bit longer for our normal videos, but I knew it was going to be that way with three of us. I did some additional research because I was excited to make another video. So I don't have anything. We'll go to Danny Stone. Any closing remarks from you?
We got a comment saying Tay-Tay didn't ask to be a main character. Look at the army of Swifties. They find you. You can't escape it.
We covered that. I brought that up. I said she didn't ask me to be the main character, and that's when I said she should be in the Super Bowl. Like, I don't understand.
Oh, okay, my mistake. I guess I didn't even see the comment. I didn't pick up on it.
I don't understand. Like national,
the airs were burning.
Yeah, the national anthem, the halftime show. There's multiple things she can do.
Yeah, she can do everything. That'd be so funny.
Yeah, she should do all three.
No, thank you. That would be hilarious. Halftime show, national anthem, end game, whatever. No, this was so much fun. I'm so glad to have you, Mac, especially as a 49ers fan. Thank you guys for kind of covering the Rams first, because I'll try to link it in my article so that people can catch that. I don't know if they'll make it this far into the video, but I'll thank them if they do. And thank you guys so much. This was a lot of fun, and thanks for putting together SamMeeBee.
Yeah, thanks for being here, Mac. Thanks for joining us again. Any closing remarks from you?
Yeah, well, thanks for inviting me on. This is super fun. Just talking about sports in general. I'll talk all day about sports.
Yep.
But to do it with people that are knowledgeable, this is just super fun, and I'm looking forward. I'm down to do it whenever you guys want. So just let me know. Yeah,
and I'll end with I agree with what both you guys said. I love talking sports. I can do it. Love having you here as a Niners fan, getting a fresh perspective, especially like Danny Stone said earlier that maybe our bias from Arizona. We're like, oh, yeah, they won by a lot. They're a great team.
Real deal.
Cardinals Chiefs Super Bowl.
I texted Danny Stone. I said Saints Cardinals NFC Championship. Who are you taking? So biased. So I do like it, and I do enjoy talking sports. Hope we can try to find a day that we can redo this more, because we actually had a lot of good views today. So I think I'm pretty happy with this. And thanks for the comments and the viewers. Other than that, thanks for joining us, and one love.
Go Rams.